It's Monday, July 6th, 2020. I'm Jer Stays, and this is your Daily Detroit, sharing what to know and where to go in Southeast Michigan. Let's get started. Today's show is in three parts. First, an update on coronavirus in Michigan and the unemployment rate that may not be reflective of what real people are experiencing. Then, Karen Dybus previews the Detroit Kite Festival, a great way to have fun while socially distanced. Plus, sports journalist Fletcher, Sharpe and Sven Gustafson talk Detroit City FC and if pro sports are even going to happen. Michigan on Sunday had its first day with 0 deaths due to COVID-19 since March, with 360 new cases. That brings the total number of confirmed and probable coronavirus cases to just under 73,000, and we hold steady at 6,218 fatalities. We also have an update on the virus spread levels, or RT rate. It's 1.18, which is slightly better than last week and now out of the top 10 nationally. That said, with events over the holiday weekend that just spread all over online in Cass County and in other places that had no social distancing, these numbers could rise. Plus, it takes time for cases to work through sickness, hospital admission, then deaths. Although Michigan is doing far better currently than other states, we're looking at some additional metrics to help understand just how things are doing in the state. After all, it's the size of the country of Sweden. What's happening in one place may not be happening in another. A new tool launched July 1st by the Harvard Global Health Institute gives us a map of what's happening on a per-county basis. It measures the cases per 100,000 in counties across the nation on a 7-day rolling average, and it breaks counties into 4 categories. I'm going to quickly go through those. Green means on track for containment. Yellow, community spread. Orange, accelerated spread. And red is labeled as a tipping point, meaning stay-at-home orders are necessary to stop the virus. This way, we'll be able to give sort of a Metro Detroit snapshot and highlight hotspot counties across the state. So all of our tri-county area of Wayne, Oakland, and Macomb, as well as neighboring counties, are currently yellow. That means rigorous test and trace programs are advised, and to be careful. There is one county in Michigan that is red. That's Oceana County on the west side of the state. And over the weekend, as I mentioned earlier, a video went viral online from the Diamond Lake Sandbar, showing hundreds of younger adults partying and drinking with no social distancing. That's located in Cass County, and that's a yellow county. But next door, St. Joseph, as well as others, they're orange and cases are accelerating. I will put a link to the globalepidemics.org map in the show notes so you can play with it yourself. Now, to unemployment. New data shows that the traditional way the federal government measures unemployment may not be as useful in the pandemic, and that the June numbers provided by the government need to be looked at with some skepticism. Axios.com reports that there are twice as many people actually receiving unemployment benefits across America, like actually getting checks, than are listed as unemployed in the statistics. More than 37 million people nationally are currently getting unemployment benefits, while the jobs report puts the number of unemployed people at just over 17 million. That could be a big uh-oh in using the unemployment numbers as a barometer of the actual economic situation, and that the unemployment rate is lowering because of classifications of workers falling through the cracks, not because people are getting back to work. In actuality, as the lockdowns have lifted, the number of people receiving pandemic unemployment assistance has swelled from 9.7 million on May 23rd to 12.9 million now. Axios notes that's the opposite of what was expected. The number of people receiving unemployment benefits in June only declined by about 1 million people, and that puts our real unemployment rate at least 15%. There's also an eye-opening report by Economic Policy Institute economists Heidi Shierholz and Elise Gold, and I will put a link to that nerdery in the show notes. Joining me on the line, friend of the pod, Karen Dybus. Welcome back to Daily Detroit.
Happy to be here.
So I wanted to talk about this one because, look, I love simple pleasures, and one of the most simple pleasures, but yet so challenging and fun, is kite flying. And one of the things I enjoy is the Detroit Kite Festival. It's something that's been on Belle Isle, and maybe you can share some of the details of kind of what that's been in the past. And then looks like there's going to be some things happening across Metro Detroit this year.
Yeah, this is the fourth annual event here in 2020, but because it is 2020, you have to socially distance the Kite Festival in a way that made sense and could still have that spirit of community and joy and the celebration of the great outdoors. And so rather than have everybody pack Belle Isle on what will already probably be a popular Sunday, they're asking people to disperse both on the island, in Metro Detroit, both in the suburbs and the city, so many glorious parks that could host you to just go fly a kite and get out there and enjoy that simple pleasure of being with family or your quarantine pod, as they put it, and to get out there and honor this one thing that can bring us back to our childhood joy, which is flying a kite.
Well, I have a special place in my heart for these kind of nonprofit festivals. It's a 501c3. They're not trying to make a buck off of this. They just love kites. And so I just have like a real soft spot in my heart for them.
Yeah, and a goal of this particular year's festival is not only if you can donate to support it, but was also to get kite donations for kids who might not be able to afford a kite. And in their Facebook page, they also had kite demonstrations of how to build one at home, a very simple process of, being able to put something together and take it out to the park. And again, such a great moment to be outside and exhale in a way that is real and substantial right now. People need to be outside and heal together, and they can do this very easily because flying a kite, you need space anyway. They can be outside and be together in some of these amazing parks. Like if you haven't been to Palmer Park, or if you haven't seen the glory of the waterfront from Alfred Ford, there's really great spots all across Detroit, and then some of the metro parks that are being recommended for the kite flying, just gorgeous spots. So take a picnic, take the family, get the kite in the air, and just enjoy the day.
Well, yeah, and it seems like a good option. I'm not a parent myself, but my friends that are parents, they have just been having to find things to do with their kids. It's just been an ongoing kind of struggle.
Yeah, you really need to get them outside. Nature by itself is a energy giver. You want to be outside among the trees where human pack animals that need to be in physical proximity to each other, but we also need to be outside among the trees. And that gives us our true healthy energy. So you take a kid outside, they breathe better, they relax, they get away from a screen. And in this instance, they can actually see other people. And I think that's been a big loss during the quarantines and the subsequent social distancing. Just to be in the presence of one another when there's smiles on each other's faces, or the masks can come off if you're properly social distanced and you can be among your pod. It's really a great moment for kids to get that joy of childhood back.
And I know that you have all of the details up on DetroitOnTheCheap.com, and I will have a link to the show notes. But what day and time is this?
This is Sunday, July 12th, and it can be anywhere from 9 in the morning to 9 at night. Just asking people to get outside and participate wherever you are, from your own backyard to your community parks to some of the Detroit parks and metro parks that are just great sites for kite flying.
The big nerd in me feels like there needs to be a hashtag for this.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're asking people to tag them on Instagram, and the organizers are hoping people would, go to the website, check out what else they do and some of the events that they'll have. But also, you could hashtag it and just let people know that you're participating. It's one of those things that if we all collectively get out and have fun together with hashtag Detroit Kites 2020, it just gives you that joy of something that's positive and that we're all doing together with a little bit of optimism for our futures.
For sure. And optimism is something that we need right now. I wanted to ask you on another topic real quick. Across our newswire came the information that a large chain is getting into the drive-in business. And I know how much you love drive-ins. We did a segment about it. And the fact is, a local drive-in movie theater, the Ford, Wyoming, was the highest netting screen in the United States recently, which is really cool to see that happening here. But I got to ask what you think. Walmarts across the country are now going to be doing drive-in theaters. I think more than 160 of them around the nation. What are your thoughts?
Well, this is one thing that I ask people to think deeply about who they support and why. I understand completely the need for entertainment, and I love the Metro Detroit spirit of getting in our cars to enjoy some social distancing and entertainment in a beautiful setting like the Ford, like the Capri in Coldwater or the Highway Drive-In in Carsonville. There's one in Flint called the US 23. Wonderful locations. If you're going to go to the drive-in, though, and you're going to have it sponsored by Walmart, which is a huge corporation that has had some issues surrounding how it chooses to support its employees or with the benefits, and then the partner that they're working with being a New York-based distribution group, it's not supporting Michigan at a time when our economy, being one of the hot spots at one point, is really challenged. So I would just throw it out there to people to think through, if you're going to go somewhere for your entertainment bang for your buck, it'd be great to go somewhere that has a local tie. And Walmart, we love them. They give us our everyday needs, maybe at some low prices, but they are not necessarily the ones that are hiring our neighbors and are supporting our communities in this way.
Yeah, I hear exactly what you're saying. Well, Karen Dybus at Karen Dybus on Twitter, thank you so much for stopping by for a few minutes with us, and can't wait to talk to you again.
Always happy to help.
Before we get to Fletch and Sven, a quick reminder that Daily Detroit is brought to you by our members like Matt, Alan, Anthony, Jennifer, Kevin, Ann, and Aaron. If you financially can and get value for the show, consider supporting us. It helps keeps independent media alive and connects our community. Plus, we got stickers. So you can join us at patreon.com/Daily Detroit. And thank you. Now to Sven Gustafson and Fletcher Sharpe.
Fletcher Sharpe, man, weird year in sports, man. A lot of things in limbo, a lot of uncertainty about, we've got no NBA, the Major League Baseball season's been a big nothing burger. But there's news with Detroit City FC. It looks like both the men's and the inaugural women's team are going to see some action. Tell us what you know.
I know the men's team recently signed up for their kind of an amateur cup with a lot of other teams throughout the entire country. It's kind of like a short, small 3 or 4 team based tournament where you play in your region. If you win, you move on to the next part. Detroit's region is going to include Detroit City FC, Cleveland SC, who used to be AFC Cleveland, and FC Buffalo. So essentially, it's going to be the Rust Belt Derby, which used to be a thing that Detroit used to play in, where it'd be Detroit, AFC Cleveland when they were the Royals, and FC Buffalo back when they really went by the Blitzers, because they were really trying to get Wolf Blitzer to be a fan of the team. And I think the last winner of the Rust Belt Derby actually was Detroit. So it's a chance to kind of keep the belt, which I think is a good idea, just to kind of integrate professional teams and semi-professional teams back together. I think it's just kind of weird that you're going to have a lot of professional teams playing against a bunch of amateur teams. And I feel like if you're just going to go off paper, the professional team should win all those matchups. But I think it's just a good idea overall, just to get players out playing and, doing stuff together. So.
And how about the women's team? They've had their regular season, their inaugural regular season canceled because of COVID-19, but now there's a showcase tournament for the United Women's Soccer, right?
Correct. They have the United Women's Soccer Showcase, and I know Michigan's teams are Detroit City FC. They have Lansing United, back from the dead. They have Midwest United, which is Grand Rapids FC's women's team. And then they have Livonia City FC, the women's team, which I did not know actually had a women's team. So that's good to hear that a lot of teams are now branching out to have women's teams as well, especially with the rabid fan base who want to see representation on the field as well as in the stands, as well as in the front office. So it's good to see that they're going to finally get something going. I know that the girls have started practicing, I think about a few weeks ago. I know they named a captain, Sarah Hugh. They named a few of their star players they want to keep an eye on. I know the coach has been pretty eager to get out there and actually play against, other competition besides just the players. I know some of the women have been chomping at the bit, and they've actually gone and practiced with the men's side. So, it's been really good to see kind of the mixed practices when you can. I'm excited just to see football that's not on television in some other country. So
the big question is, what do we know about whether or not fans are going to be allowed into Keyworth to watch the action?
As of now, there's been really no word, but considering that the state is kind of shut down again, I would really feel like that they should not have fans in the stands. I know Detroit City FC's fans are kind of bummed out to hear something like that, especially when there's going to be 7,000, 8,000 people trying to show up and watch a game, especially when they've been really trying to see their own team, especially when they've been really behind the whole idea of having women's soccer at the same place as the men's soccer. But in the same vein, I feel to keep people safe and not have people get sick and have other things happen, they need to like have them watch from a distance. If that means WD-20 needs to like set up a deal where they can stream these games as well, do that. If that means people need to like have people use Periscope or something and watch, people need to take pictures and, you know, transcribe whatever's happening, sure. But in person is not the way to go. Too many people, too close of area. If one person's sick, then 50 people sick, and that's how that branches out. And, you know, we'll have a whole Harper's Bar situation down at Keyworth. We don't want that at all.
So Fletcher, man, I mean, you're a professional sports journalist. You know, this is affecting your livelihood, but I'm hearing you say basically that you're not eager to see sports come back in full right now. Is that right?
I really would appreciate sports coming back in a capacity that could keep people safe and also keep me able to pay rent on time. But at the same vein, I don't want to make money and then potentially like be sick and have things happen. Like I understand that this is a national thing, and yes, people have their own opinions, but I feel like if you have one sick person around a bunch of other healthy people, they could also become a sick person. And like there's really no need to risk something that in a way is, while it's a job for these athletes, it's a pleasure for everybody else. You don't need to risk your own health just to go watch a game for something. If you really need to watch the game, watch it on television. I think having these people show up in massive groups can be a problem. I know, for example, in the MLS, FC Dallas entered into the MLS bubble, which is currently in Orlando, Florida, with like a bunch of other leagues. And before they got to Florida, I know Texas had a very high COVID rate. Before they got to Florida, they had 0 confirmed cases. They got to Florida, and within like a day and a half, they had 9 confirmed cases. I know the Orlando Pride FC, the women's team of the NWSL, before the women's restart tournament, they had 0 cases after the first, couple practices. A few of the younger players wanted to come out, and they wanted to go to the bars and hang out. The next time they got tested, I think it was 13 or 14 combined cases, 9 players and like 4 or 5 staff. You have basketball players who were showing up to the bubble in Orlando who were like, hey, it's between bringing my kids and my elderly parents and my other family into this bubble for a month or going to see my family. I'd much rather just see my family and not have them get sick. So I feel like while it's great that we have sports coming back to a degree, I think it's better to just be safe and make sure that we're all okay, because getting a week of sports coming back and then all of a sudden we have a skyrocketing of cases is not really a win in my book.
Yeah, I guess it comes down to priorities. Fletcher Sharpe, good to see you, man. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
And that'll do it for today's show. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks to Sven Gustafson, Karen Dybus, and Fletcher Sharpe for their help today, as well as Cheyenne Noserini behind the scenes who helped edit this show. I'm Jer Stays. Take care of each other, and we will get through this together. Talk with you tomorrow.